Tonight, we once again enter the storied streets of Metro City and hang our hat at the local bar where every street fighter knows your name. And if you enjoy this cozy story, don't forget to unload a Hadouken on the like button or complete the combo by subscribing for more content about these iconic warriors. But for now, get as comfortable as Yuri Han in a spiked choker and grab your favorite drink, because tonight's journey into the world of Street Fighter begins now at the Broken Fist. The neon sign of the Broken Fist flickered lazily in the evening air, its broken T giving the bar its unique character that seemed to suit its surroundings. The establishment sat wedged between a pawn shop and a vacant lot in the industrial district of Metro City. It was a rough neighborhood, but that had never deterred the locals or the occasional curious tourist looking for an authentic slice of the city's fighting culture. Inside, Tommy Dizzy DiMartino wiped down the old mahogany bar with practiced efficiency. At 42, his athletic frame still held the muscle memory of countless fights, though his movements now were more about preventing spilled drinks than dodging punches. His dark hair was peppered with grey at the temples, and the wrinkles around his eyes deepened when he smiled, which was often. A small scar above his left eyebrow was the only visible reminder of his championship days. The evening crowd had started filtering in, factory workers, off-duty cops, and the occasional fighter looking to relax rather than spar. Tommy knew most of them by name, and those he didn't, he made it his business to learn. "Evening, Dizzy," grunted Carlos, a regular who worked at the auto shop 3 blocks down. "The usual." Tommy nodded, reaching for a bottle of rye whiskey without looking. "How's business, Carlos? That new parts supplier working out?" As the gruff, oil-stained man launched into a detailed complaint about aftermarket carburetors, Tommy glanced across the room. The Broken Fist wasn't fancy. Exposed brick walls decorated with framed photos of famous Metro City fights, mismatched tables and chairs that had survived countless scuffles, and a small raised platform in the corner that served as a stage on live music nights. But it was clean. The drinks were good, and, with the exception of E. Honda's restaurant, the food was second to none. Sura, his head waitress, weaved between tables with the grace of someone who had trained under one of the best fighters in the world. Her blonde ponytail swung as she balanced 3 plates on one arm, a technique Tommy suspected Chun-Li had taught her for reasons entirely unrelated to food service. Something seemed off about Sura tonight, though. A slight tension in her shoulders, a distracted look in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. Behind the bar, Tommy completed Carlos's drink with a twist of lemon and slid it across the counter. The door swung open, bringing in a gust of cool evening air and the heavy bass thump of a passing car. A new face. That always made things interesting. The newcomer approached the bar cautiously. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with a fighter's build and freshly taped knuckles. Tommy spotted a fading bruise under the kid's right eye, a souvenir from a recent match, no doubt. "What can I get you?" Tommy asked, already reaching for a glass. "Actually," the young man said, leaning in and lowering his voice, "I heard this is where I could find out about the Metro Mirage." Tommy's hand paused mid-reach. The Metro Mirage. Now that was a name he hadn't heard in years, "I don't know what you're talking about, kid," Tommy said, his tone casual but firm. "But we've got the best Moscow mule in the district if you're thirsty." The young man looked disappointed but nodded. "Sure, I'll take one." As Tommy prepared the drink, his phone buzzed. The liquor delivery was delayed. Again. That meant they'd run out of tequila before the night was over, unless he got creative with the inventory. Just what he needed on a Friday night. The kitchen doors swung open, and Roberto, his cook, emerged with a concerned look on his broad face. The large man had trained in both culinary arts and sumo wrestling under Edmund Honda, and his massive frame nearly filled the doorway. "Boss, we've got a problem with the fryer," Roberto said, wiping his hands on his apron. "And we're almost out of the chili oil for your special wings." Tommy sighed. "Can you fix the fryer?" "Yeah, but it'll take an hour, maybe more." "Do what you can. I'll head to the market for the chili oil after the rush dies down." Tommy turned back to the bar, where 3 more customers had lined up. As he served drinks, Jasmine, his other waitress, sidled up to the bar. With her brunette hair pulled back in a tight bun and her perpetual rhythm, it was easy to see DJ's influence in her movements. "Dizzy, table 6 is asking if we can put the fights on," she said, gesturing to the ancient TV mounted in the corner. "The Metropolitan Martial Arts Tournament prelims are starting." "Sure thing," Tommy replied, tossing her the remote. "But keep the volume low. It's not a sports bar." As Jasmine walked away, Tommy noticed Sura checking her phone again, a worried expression crossing her face before she quickly stuffed it back in her pocket. That was the 3rd time in an hour. Definitely unusual for his most reliable employee. The young man who had asked about the Metro Mirage finished his drink and left, but not before casting a lingering look at the framed photographs on the wall. Tommy followed his gaze to a particular picture. Himself, 15 years younger, arms raised in victory at the Metro City Underground Championship. He felt the familiar tug of nostalgia, quickly replaced by the practicality of the present moment. The bar was filling up. Sura was acting strange. They were low on supplies, and someone was asking questions about a technique Tommy had hoped everyone had forgotten. Just another Friday at the Broken Fist. The evening progressed in its usual rhythm, the clinking of glasses, the hum of conversation, occasional roars from patrons watching the tournament on TV. Tommy was mixing a complicated cocktail for a group of office workers celebrating a birthday when the door opened again. This time, a middle-aged woman entered. She was dressed in business attire, but Tommy noted the calluses on her knuckles and the way she scanned the room, sizing everyone up and noting the strongest patrons before approaching the bar. Another fighter, though not one who competed regularly. "What'll it be?" Tommy asked as she took a seat. "Information," she replied, her voice low. "I'm looking for someone who knows about the Metro Mirage technique. I was told you might help." Tommy kept his face neutral as he set a napkin in front of her. "Seems I'm popular tonight. That's twice someone's come in asking about old fighting legends." "So you don't know anything?" The woman looked disappointed. "I didn't say that." Tommy leaned against the bar. "But I'm curious why there's sudden interest in a technique nobody's talked about in a decade." Before she could answer, a commotion broke out near the pool tables. 2 men were squaring off, their postures shifting into fighting stances. One was clearly drunk, the other insulted. "Excuse me," Tommy said to the woman. "Duty calls." He moved quickly across the room, inserting himself between the two men with practiced ease. "Gentlemen, we settle arguments with words or pool cues here, not fists. You know the rules." The drunk man, a regular named Pete, swayed slightly. "This punk said my stance is garbage. 20 years of taekwondo, and this nobody's going to tell me I don't know how to fight." The other man, a stranger with military attire and a haircut that suggested he was a Guile fanboy, didn't back down. "I just suggested a correction. Your weight distribution is all wrong." Tommy placed a hand on each man's shoulder. "Pete, you've had enough tonight. Let me call you a cab. And you," he addressed the military man. "If you're looking to critique fighting styles, there's a dojo 3 blocks over. This is a bar." As Tommy was diffusing the situation, the door opened again. The new arrival made several heads turn. He wore a worn baseball cap pulled low and casual clothes, but there was something familiar about him. It took Tommy a moment to place him, and when he did, he nearly dropped the glass he was holding. Cody Travers, former street fighter, convict, and now the temporary acting mayor of Metro City in Mike Haggard's absence, was standing in his bar, clearly trying not to be recognized. Tommy quickly handed Pete off to Jasmine to arrange a ride home and returned to the bar, where Cody had found a seat in the corner, his back to the wall, cap still low over his eyes. "What can I get you?" Tommy asked, keeping his voice neutral. "Whatever's on tap," Cody replied, his eyes scanning the room. "And some privacy." Tommy nodded and pulled a beer, sliding it across to the incognito mayor. "Rough day at the office." Cody's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he gave a small, tired smile. "You could say that. Sometimes you just need to remember where you came from, you know?" "I hear that," Tommy replied, wiping down the counter. "Enjoy your drink, Mr. Mayor. Your secret's safe here." Cody looked momentarily startled, then relaxed. "Appreciate it." As Tommy moved away, he noticed the businesswoman from earlier watching their exchange with interest. The night was getting more complicated by the minute. And where was Sura? She had disappeared into the back room 15 minutes ago and hadn't returned. With a sigh, Tommy headed toward the storage room to check on his head waitress, only to find Roberto blocking his path. "Boss, the fryer's done for," the cook said grimly, "and we've got orders piling up." "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that I need 20 minutes and that fire extinguisher behind the bar." Tommy ran a hand through his hair. "Take what you need. I'll help Jasmine with the tables." He paused before adding, "And if you see our head waitress, ask her if she still works here." With Roberto battling the kitchen equipment and Sura still MIA, Tommy found himself doing double duty, tending bar and helping Jasmine with table service. Years of martial arts training had given him balance and coordination that proved useful as he navigated the crowded floor with trays of drinks. As Tommy was pouring drinks behind the bar, he spotted a familiar face in the corner booth. "Well, I'll be," he muttered with a grin. He approached the table where an elderly man sat, setting down a whiskey neat that hadn't been ordered. "On the house," Tommy said, "for a fellow practitioner." The old man smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "I wondered if you'd recognized me, Dizzy." "Hard not to recognize the referee who oversaw my championship match," Tommy replied, keeping his voice low. Master Takeda, what brings you to my humble establishment? The same thing that brought the others, Takeda said, glancing toward the businesswoman, who was now engaged in conversation with another patron. The Metro Mirage has resurfaced. Tommy frowned. That's impossible. Nobody's been able to perform it since you, in the 2016 championship, Takeda finished. And yet, rumors are circulating that someone is seeking to perform it again. People are getting curious and concerned. Tommy was about to reply when he spotted Sura emerging from the back, her phone clutched in her hand, expression troubled. Excuse me, Master Takeda. We'll continue this later. He intercepted her as she headed toward the service station. Everything all right? You've been scarce tonight. Sura startled, nearly dropping her phone. Sorry, Dizzy. I'm fine, just personal stuff. Tommy raised an eyebrow. Personal stuff that's making you check your phone every 5 minutes and disappear during the Friday rush? That's not like you, Sura. Before she could answer, a crash from the kitchen followed by Roberto's muffled cursing drew their attention. We'll talk later, Tommy said firmly. Right now, I need you on the floor. Jasmine's handling everything alone. Sura nodded, guilt flashing across her face as she tucked her phone away and grabbed an order pad. Tommy made his way to the bar, where the businesswoman was now seated directly across from where Cody nursed his second beer. Another round? Tommy asked her. Please. She leaned forward. I couldn't help overhearing earlier. You do know something about the Metro Mirage? Tommy began mixing her drink with practiced movements. I might. Question is, why is a corporate type interested in an obscure fighting technique? I represent certain interested parties, she said carefully. People who are concerned about its potential misuse. From the corner of his eye, Tommy saw Cody sit up straighter, attention clearly caught by their conversation, despite pretending to watch the tournament on TV. The Metro Mirage isn't dangerous, Tommy said, sliding her completed drink across the bar. It's just difficult. Requires a specific state of mind that most fighters can't achieve. And yet, you mastered it, she countered. I got lucky once. Tommy shrugged. Couldn't replicate it if I tried. A commotion near the entrance drew his attention. 2 men in expensive suits entered, their rigid postures and scanning gazes marking them as security rather than patrons. Their eyes settled on Cody, who tensed visibly. Tommy moved quickly, intercepting them before they could approach the acting mayor. Gentlemen, welcome to the Broken Fist. What can I get you? The taller of the two barely glanced at him. We're not here to drink. Then I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave. This is a bar, not a meeting hall. The shorter man reached inside his jacket, producing an ID. City security. We're here to escort Mayor Travers back to City Hall. Tommy stood his ground. I don't care if you're the President's Secret Service. In this bar, everyone gets to drink in peace. No one gets escorted anywhere unless they want to go. The tension in the room rose as other patrons began to notice the confrontation. From the corner of his eye, Tommy saw Jasmine subtly shift into a fighting stance, and even Roberto had emerged from the kitchen, his massive frame imposing despite the dish towel over his shoulder. The security men exchanged glances, clearly calculating their options. Before they could decide, Cody stood up, cap still low over his eyes. It's all right, bartender, he said. I appreciate the sentiment, but I should be getting back. He turned to the security men. Give me 5 minutes to finish my beer, then we'll go." The men looked displeased, but nodded curtly and retreated to stand by the door. Tommy returned to the bar, where Cody was now finishing his drink. "Sorry about that," Tommy said. "Occupational hazard of being mayor, I guess." Cody gave a wry smile. "That's what I get for agreeing to fill in while Mike trains for the tournament. But I meant what I said earlier. Sometimes you need to remember where you came from." He looked around the bar thoughtfully. "Places like this, they're the real heart of Metro City." "High praise from the man running the place," Tommy replied. Cody leaned in slightly. "I couldn't help overhearing about the Metro Mirage. If someone really is trying to use that technique again." He shook his head. "They should know. Even the most legendary of fighters struggle with its mastery." Before Tommy could respond, the kitchen doors burst open and Roberto emerged with a platter of steaming wings. "Fryer's fixed," he announced triumphantly, "and I improvised the chili oil. Should be even better than my regular recipe." As Roberto distributed the wings to waiting customers, Tommy noticed something odd about the sauce. It had a distinctive sheen and smell that reminded him of... "Roberto," he called, moving quickly toward the cook. "What exactly did you use to replace the chili oil?" The big man beamed proudly. "Remember that bottle of imported oil Edmund gave me last New Year's? The one with the red dragon on it?" Tommy felt the blood drain from his face. "The one I specifically told you was not for cooking. The one that's meant for massage therapy and training." Roberto's smile faltered. "Is that going to be a problem?" As if on cue, a customer who had just bitten into a wing suddenly gasped, his eyes widening. "Holy Hadouken! These are amazing! My whole mouth is tingling!" Another customer took a bite and immediately reached for water. "It's like I can feel my chi aligning. What's in these?" Tommy closed his eyes briefly, calculating how to handle this new crisis while still dealing with everything else going on in his bar. Just then, his phone buzzed, a text from his liquor supplier saying they could make a late delivery after all, but only if he confirmed in the next 5 minutes. The night was rapidly spiraling beyond his control, and somewhere in the middle of it all was the mystery of why 3 different people had suddenly developed an interest in a fighting technique Tommy hadn't thought about in years. Tommy was orchestrating controlled chaos, explaining to overheated wing-eaters that the special ingredient was a family secret, texting his liquor supplier confirmation, and trying to keep an eye on Sora, who had disappeared into the back room again when Master Takeda approached the bar. "Your establishment is lively," the old referee observed, watching as a customer performed an impromptu tatsumaki in the middle of the floor, apparently inspired by the special wings. "That's one word for it," Tommy muttered, sliding a glass of water to a red-faced patron. "Look, Master Takeda, I appreciate the nostalgic visit, but I'm dealing with a situation here." "Indeed you are," the old man nodded sagely. "More than one, I think." Tommy paused, something in the old man's tone catching his attention. "What do you know that I don't?" Takeda gestured toward the businesswoman, who was now typing rapidly on her phone. "Ms. Nakamura there works for the Metropolitan Fighting Federation. They're concerned because someone has been registering for upcoming tournaments, claiming to be a master of the Metro Mirage." "That's impossible," Tommy said flatly. "The technique requires a perfect balance of focus and instinct that comes only in a state of pure fighting zen," a new voice interrupted. The young man from earlier had returned, slipping into the seat beside Takeda. a move that has only been seen once in recent years. He gestured toward the picture on the wall from earlier, before staring meaningfully at Dizzy. Tommy stared back. "Who are you, kid?" "Jin Park," the young man said. "I've been researching forgotten fighting techniques for my master's thesis. The Metro Mirage is the centerpiece of my research." "A scholarly interest," Takeda noted, "while Ms. Nakamura has a professional concern, and I, a personal interest." Tommy's mind raced, connecting dots. The tournament. Someone's entered using the Metro Mirage as their signature technique, and the Federation is worried it could be dangerous or fake. But why would you care personally, Master Takeda? The old man's eyes crinkled. "Because I was the one who first documented the technique 50 years ago. I recognized it later in your championship match, though I doubt you realized what you had done at the time." Tommy remembered that moment, the perfect counter he'd performed, almost without thought, that had secured his victory. It had felt like time itself had slowed down, his body moving through the air with impossible precision. "I couldn't replicate it," Tommy admitted. "I tried for years afterward." "Few can," Takeda agreed. "It requires a specific mental state that most fighters never achieve. But according to registration documents for next week's regional tournament, someone named the Phoenix claims to have mastered it." As the pieces fell into place, Tommy's eyes widened in sudden realization. He turned toward the back room where Sura had once again disappeared. "Excuse me," he said to Takeda and Jin, already moving toward the back of the bar. He found Sura in the employee break room, practicing a complex sequence of moves in the small space. She froze when she saw him. "Dizzy, I was just..." "Taking a break to practice for the regional tournament," Tommy finished for her. "Where you've registered as the Phoenix and claim to know the Metro Mirage technique." Sura's shoulders slumped. "How did you find out?" 3 different people walked into my bar tonight, all asking about a technique nobody's talked about in years. It wasn't hard to connect the dots once I knew what to look for. Tommy leaned against the doorframe. "The question is, why didn't you tell me?" Sura sank into a chair. "Because I knew you'd say it was impossible, that I was wasting my time or setting myself up for embarrassment." "Is that really what you think of me?" "No, but..." She hesitated. "Chun-Li has been coaching me. She believes I have the right temperament to master it. I've been taking extra training sessions with her for months." Tommy nodded slowly, things clicking into place. The late arrivals, the phone checks, the distraction. "I was going to tell you after I won," Sura said, a determined gleam in her eye. "I didn't want to ask for time off for the tournament until I was sure I was ready." "And are you?" Tommy asked. "Have you really mastered it?" Before she could answer, Jasmine burst in. "Dizzy, we need you out front. 2 guys are arguing about who has the best Shoryuken technique, Ken or Ryu, and it's getting heated." Tommy sighed. "We'll continue this conversation later," he told Sura. "But for now, I need my head waitress back on the floor." As he followed Jasmine back to the main bar, he found Cody still there, his security detail looking increasingly impatient by the door. "Thought you'd be gone by now, Mr. Travers," Tommy said as he passed. "Waiting to see how all this plays out," Cody replied with a small smile. "It's the most interesting evening I've had in months." The argument near the pool tables had indeed escalated, with 2 men demonstrating increasingly energetic uppercut motions, their drinks long forgotten. "Gentlemen," Tommy said firmly, stepping between them. If you want to debate technique, do it sitting down. If you want to demonstrate, take it to a dojo. One of the men, flushed with alcohol and enthusiasm, turned to Tommy. You're Dizzy DiMartino, right? The underground champion? You settle this. Is wrist rotation essential in a proper shoryuken, or is it all in the shoulder drive? Tommy was saved from answering by a sudden crash from behind the bar, where Jin had apparently knocked over a row of glasses while demonstrating something to Master Takeda and Ms. Nakamura. Sorry, Jin called out, looking embarrassed. As Tommy went to clean up the mess, he realized that all the elements of the night's mystery were converging. Sura's secret training, the Federation's concerns, the scholarly interest, and Master Takeda's personal stake all centered around the Metro Mirage, a technique Tommy himself had only performed once, by accident. And somehow, he needed to resolve all of this while running his bar, managing his staff, and preventing any actual fighting from breaking out among his patrons. By 10 o'clock, the broken fist was at capacity. The improved wing source had generated buzz, and people were coming in specifically to try the chi-enhancing appetizers, as someone had described them on social media. Roberto was beaming with pride, despite Tommy's stern warning about ever using the training oil for cooking again. In the midst of the crowd, Tommy found himself at the center of a gathering that included Master Takeda, Jin Park, Ms. Nakamura from the Federation, and now Sura, who had come clean about her tournament registration. Even the temporarily appointed mayor had abandoned all pretense of anonymity and joined the discussion, his security detail hovering uncomfortably nearby. The issue, Ms. Nakamura was saying, is that the Federation needs to verify the technique is legitimate before allowing it in sanctioned tournaments. We can't have fighters claiming to use mythical techniques as a publicity stunt. It's not mythical, Tommy and Takeda said in unison. Jin leaned forward eagerly. That's my point exactly. Historical documentation shows the Metro Mirage was used in at least 3 documented matches in the 1970s, then disappeared until Mr. DiMartino's championship fight in 2016. I still say it was luck, Tommy insisted. The right moment, the right mindset, the right opponent. But that's exactly what makes it special, Sura argued. It's not about memorizing moves. It's about achieving a state of perfect balance between conscious technique and unconscious reaction. Chun-Li calls it fighting without fighting. Cody nodded thoughtfully. I've experienced something similar. Not the Mirage specifically, but moments where everything slows down and you just know what to do. The problem remains, Ms. Nakamura cut in. Without verification, the Federation cannot allow a competitor to claim mastery of this technique. All eyes turned to Tommy, the only person present who had successfully performed the Metro Mirage in recent history. You want me to verify whether Sura can do it, he stated flatly. Master Takeda nodded. Who better? You've experienced it firsthand. Tommy glanced at Sura, whose expression was a mix of hope and determination. He thought about her years of hard work at the bar, her dedication to training with Chun-Li, and her dream of tournament success. Fine, he sighed, but not here, not now. We'd need space, and I have a bar to run. Actually, Roberto interjected, appearing behind them with a towel over his shoulder. We could use the storage area out back. It's empty since the delivery came through. Tommy hesitated, looking around at his busy bar. Walking away during the Friday night rush went against every business instinct he had. Jasmine sidled up, as if reading his thoughts. "Go," she said. "Roberto and I can handle things for a few minutes. Besides, half these people are just here to gawk at the mayor anyway." Cody chuckled at that. "Happy to provide the entertainment." Tommy looked at each of them in turn, then at Sura, whose future potentially hung in the balance. "Just for a few minutes," he agreed reluctantly. "Let's go out back." The storage area behind the Broken Fist wasn't large, but with the liquor deliveries stowed away, it provided enough open space for a demonstration. Tommy had Jasmine bring out a few standing lamps to illuminate the area, casting long shadows against the brick walls. Ms. Nakamura, Jin, Master Takeda, and Cody formed a small audience, while Tommy and Sura stood facing each other in the center of the space. "The Metro Mirage," Tommy began, feeling strangely formal, "isn't a specific move like a Hadouken or Shoryuken. It's a counter technique that adapts to your opponent's energy. The name comes from the way it makes the fighter appear to be in multiple places at once. A mirage. The key," Master Takeda added, "is finding the perfect balance point between structure and formlessness. Too rigid, and you can't adapt. Too loose, and you lack power." Sura nodded, taking a deep breath as she centered herself. "Chun-Li focused on teaching me to find that balance point. We used meditation and specialized training exercises." "Show me your stance," Tommy instructed. Sura moved into position, her form both familiar and subtly different from her usual fighting stance. Tommy could see Chun-Li's influence in the way she distributed her weight, but there was something else there too, a quality of readiness without tension. "Good," he said, moving to stand opposite her. "I'm going to attack with increasing speed and complexity. Don't try to perform the Mirage specifically, just respond naturally. The technique either emerges or it doesn't." Tommy started with basic combinations, nothing fancy, just clean, direct strikes that Sura blocked or dodged easily. Gradually, he increased the speed and variation, adding feints and changing rhythms. Sura kept pace, her movements fluid and responsive. "She's good," Cody commented from the sideline. "Really good." "Chun-Li taught her well," Master Takeda agreed. Tommy pushed harder, moving into tournament-level combinations. Sura began to struggle slightly, forced to give ground. He could see her thinking too much, trying to anticipate rather than react. "Stop trying to predict," Tommy advised between exchanges. "The Mirage isn't about outsmarting your opponent. It's about becoming one with the moment." Sura nodded, taking a deep breath. Something shifted in her stance, a subtle relaxation that didn't diminish her readiness. Tommy launched a complex attack pattern, one that had won him several matches in his competitive days. What happened next occurred so quickly that the observers later disagreed about exactly what they'd seen. Sura seemed to flow around Tommy's attack like water, her body creating what appeared to be multiple after-images as she executed a perfect counter that left Tommy lying on the mat without realizing how he got there. For Tommy, time seemed to shift. One moment, he was sparring. The next, he found himself looking up at his head waitress, whose gaze was distant, yet intensely focused. He recognized that look instantly. It carried the same clarity he had felt during his championship match. Sura hadn't just landed a good counter. She had executed the Metro Mirage. As they both returned to neutral positions, a stunned silence fell over the small audience. That was it, Tommy said, a mixture of amazement and pride in his voice. That was the Mirage. Jin scribbled notes frantically, his excitement barely contained. Incredible! The visual effect far surpasses anything described in the historical accounts. Ms. Nakamura looked impressed despite herself. I've never seen anything quite like it. Master Takeda simply nodded, a satisfied smile creasing his weathered features. The technique lives on. Sura herself seemed surprised, her eyes wide. I felt it. Everything slowed down, and I just knew what to do. That's exactly it, Tommy confirmed. The Mirage isn't something you perform. It's something that happens when you achieve perfect balance in the moment. Cody stepped forward, offering his hand to Sura. As acting mayor of Metro City, I'd be honored to have you represent us in the regional tournament. He grinned before adding, looks like old man Haggard will have his work cut out for him if he wants to win the tournament. As Sura shook his hand, beaming with pride, Tommy felt a complex mixture of emotions. Pride in his employee's achievement, satisfaction at solving the mystery that had buzzed around his bar all night, and, unexpectedly, a twinge of melancholy for his own fighting days. The demonstration had taken more out of him than he'd expected. He wasn't young anymore, and while he kept in shape, he didn't train with the intensity of his championship days. Tomorrow, he'd feel every one of his 42 years in his muscles. But seeing Sura's face, alight with accomplishment, made it worth the price. We should get back, he said, checking his watch. I've got a bar to run, and you've got tables to serve, at least until the tournament. The broken fist was still buzzing when they re-entered from the back storage area. Jasmine had things well in hand, moving efficiently between tables while Roberto called out order completions from the kitchen. The wings had continued to be a hit, though Tommy made a mental note to create a more sustainable and legal recipe for future batches. Mayor Cody resumed his seat at the bar, though now he was openly conversing with patrons who recognized him. His security detail had relaxed somewhat, having accepted that their charge wasn't going anywhere until he was good and ready. A successful verification, Master Takeda said, taking a seat beside Tommy at the bar. Ms. Nakamura has already contacted the Federation to confirm Sura's registration. Tommy nodded, watching as Sura returned to her waitressing duties with renewed energy. She'll do well at the tournament. As did you, in your time, the old referee observed. Though I sense you don't miss the competitive circuit much. Not really, he admitted, mixing a gin and tonic for a waiting customer. I found what I was looking for. Jin approached, his notebook still in hand. Mr. DiMartino, I can't thank you enough for what I witnessed tonight. My thesis advisor won't believe it. Maybe save the specific details about the oil incident, Tommy suggested with a wry smile. Some secrets should stay in-house. Jin laughed, tucking away his notebook. Of course. But would you be willing to do an interview sometime? Your insights on the technique would be invaluable. Stop by during off hours, Tommy offered. First drinks on the house. As the night wore on, the atmosphere in the Broken Fist settled into a comfortable rhythm. The mystery that had brought a former ref and two strangers to his bar had been resolved. Sura's secret was out in the open, and she moved through the bar with new confidence. The customers who had come for the special wings were pleased, even if they didn't know exactly why the sauce had given them that unusual tingling sensation. Around midnight, Mayor Travers finally stood to leave, dropping a generous tip on the bar. "You've got a special place here, Dizzy," he said. "It reminds me of what Metro City is all about. People coming together, sharing stories, settling differences without destroying the furniture." Tommy chuckled. High praise from someone who used to do his fair share of furniture destruction back in the day. Cody grinned. "We all grow up eventually. Some of us even become respectable." "Some of us," Tommy agreed with a wink. "I may stop by again sometime," Cody said as he headed for the door, his security detail perking up at the prospect of finally leaving. "When I need to remember where I came from." "Door's always open, Mr. Travers. We serve everyone here, champions, mayors, and regular folks alike." Last call came at 2 a.m., as it always did at the Broken Fist. Tommy rang the brass bell behind the bar, its clear tone cutting through the diminished chatter of the late-night crowd. "You don't have to go home," he called out, completing the ritual phrase. "But you can't stay here." Groans and good-natured complaints followed, but the patrons began settling their tabs and gathering their belongings. A few fighters from the local dojos exchanged contact information, having bonded over shared techniques and stories. The evening's excitement about the Metro Mirage had sparked broader interest in Metro City's rich fighting history. As the last customers filtered out, Tommy and his trusted crew began the familiar closing routine. Chairs up on tables, floors swept, bar wiped down, kitchen cleaned. They moved with the coordinated efficiency of people who had performed the same tasks hundreds of times before. "So," Jasmine said as she counted out her tips, "are we going to talk about the fact that Sura's been secretly training with Chun-Li to master a legendary technique that nobody's pulled off in years?" Sura blushed, organizing receipt slips. "It wasn't exactly a secret." "Just a minor detail you forgot to mention," Roberto teased, emerging from the kitchen with his coat already on. "Like me forgetting to mention that special ingredient in the wings." "Speaking of which," Tommy interjected, "we need a legitimate recipe for those. They were too popular to discontinue, but I'm not risking the health department coming down on us for using massage oil in food." "I called Sifu Honda about the special oil," Roberto admitted. "He said it can be used for both cooking and chi-enhancing massage oil, so I can start using it regularly." Tommy shook his head, smiling despite himself. "You mean it was a proper ingredient all along?" "Well, sometimes things can have more than one purpose," Roberto said with a shrug. "Isn't that what tonight was all about?" There was unexpected wisdom in the cook's words. Tommy thought about the Metro Mirage, how it served as both technique and mystique, revealing Sura to be not just his best waitress, usually, but likely the next Metro City champion to become a legend in the ring. "The tournament's next Saturday," Sura said, breaking into his thoughts. "I'll need the weekend off." "You've got it," Tommy replied without hesitation. "In fact, we should close the bar and all go support you." Jasmine pumped her fist. "Yes, I'll make a banner." "I'll prepare special snacks," Roberto added. Sura looked surprised. "You'd close for a day? For my tournament?" "Why not?" Tommy said. "The Broken Fist isn't just a bar, it's a family, and families support each other." As they finished closing up, Tommy found himself alone behind the bar, wiping down surfaces that were already clean. The events of the night had shifted something fundamental in how he viewed his establishment and his role in Metro City. For years, he had seen the Broken Fist as a retreat from his fighting past, a place where he could serve drinks instead of throwing punches. But tonight had shown him that the bar was more than just an escape. It was a continuation. The spirit of fair competition, mutual respect, and personal growth that had drawn him to fighting in the first place lived on here, just in a different form. He thought about Sura, carrying the Metro Mirage into a new generation, about Roberto, bringing E-Honda's culinary techniques to bar patrons who would never step foot in a sumo ring, about Jasmine, incorporating DJ's rhythmic movements into her efficient service style. They were all preserving and transforming Metro City's fighting legacy in their own ways. And Tommy himself, perhaps his role had evolved too. No longer the champion performing the technique, but the mentor recognizing it in others. Not the fighter at the center of the ring, but the referee ensuring that the rules were followed, the traditions respected, the spirit maintained. As he hung up his bar towel and turned off the lights, Tommy reflected that in a city where everyone settled their disputes through displays of martial arts prowess, perhaps the greatest technique of all was knowing when not to fight, when to listen, to serve, to bring people together instead of driving them apart. The neon sign of the Broken Fist flickered outside the window, its broken T a reminder that imperfection often had its own perfect place in the world. Tomorrow would bring new customers, new challenges, perhaps even new mysteries. But tonight had reminded Tommy, Dizzy DiMartino, that the past wasn't something to escape from. It was something to build upon.